Welcome to today's episode. Even as we approach the Easter holiday, we are here to have a moment of reflection and just to see the significance and the importance of having this kind of holiday. With me today, I have a group of good guests. We have been here together. Others have been hosts, but today they are also part of the guests here. So I would like to welcome them. Just before I welcome them, my name is Alan Keegan, and I'll be the host. So let me welcome our guests so that they can introduce themselves as we move forward.
Thank you, Alan. My name is Emmanuel Rotich, and it's good to be here today.
Thank you very much, Alan, for the invitation. My name is Euphrates Muli. Looking forward to the discussions.
Awesome. My name is Kibet Brian, and I am happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being part of this great discussion. Even at this time, as we start, we also want to remind you guys we have our biblical doctrines where there is Brian asemanga tunaongelea mambo na doctrinal. Yeah, so we also welcome you guys. You can go and check it at our YouTube channel so that you can also follow us with it. Yeah. So about the Easter, so what is your personal view on it, and how do you look at Easter?
Easter in itself, or Easter the celebration, or Easter the one that we commemorate what the Bible tells us about, what Christ did.
Right. Yeah, just your personal.
Yeah. So personally, it's like you said in the intro. It's a time to reflect on what Christ did for us at the cross, and not only that, and how that applies to me as a person, in the salvation that God has given me, but also in the daily life that I live. When ukiamka asubuhi, and by the end of the day, you need to understand that the life that I live is purely because of what happened at the cross.
True.
Yeah, my life changed because of what happened at the cross. And so for me, Easter is a moment to remember and celebrate that.
Yeah. So before we hear from Pastor Erotich, let's hear Euphrates view on it.
Thank you. Personally, I always like to call Easter Hope Reborn.
Hope Reborn.
And the reason I call it Hope Reborn, Easter is the fulfillment of Genesis chapter 3, verse 16, that the seed of the woman will finally crush the serpent. So it's the restoration of the Edenic experience, that the fellowship of humanity and God is finally restored by the cross. So the hope and the peace and the fellowship of God and humanity is finally restored at the cross. So that's the hope reborn, that we have now a new hope of paradise that we were initially given, but because of the fall of Adam and man, we did not access it. People tried with the laws, the prophets, it was not achievable. But with the cross, now the hope is reborn, and we celebrate the epitome of the grand restoration of man back to God.
Yeah. So true. I just like to build upon what my brothers already talked about, and I think Easter is basically the apex of history, or to be specific, redemptive history. And why that is because we who are Christians have come to know that was the focal point of God's redemptive plan, such that for there to be salvation for us to talk about being saved, Easter was crucial. And here I mean Easter as to what it signifies, not really on the particularities, whether the day or whether it is the accurate day. That's not the issue, but as to what it signifies. It is the center of what God is doing as far as he's bringing about all things in Jesus Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good.
And in fact, just maybe, I like the way Jesus puts it. For instance, in Luke chapter 24, verse 6 to 7, where even Jesus speaks of the necessity of his death. Of course, when we say Easter, we mean Christ dying, being crucified, dying, and resurrection.
Yeah.
So, and Jesus talks about it when he's discussing with, when he's in that discourse, he's saying that it is necessary for him to die. It is important. And why? Is because, as Euphrates has already said, the history in the Old Testament is all anticipating the coming of Christ. And history after Jesus Christ himself is looking back to what Christ has done. And that's why it remains to be the focal point of all redemptive history. So it's such an important aspect of Christianity that cannot be dealt without.
Yeah, so that is, you putting it in the aspect where you bring the Easter itself. It was important as it was the center of the faith.
Yes, it is the central. When we say Christianity, basically what we mean is how we have become Christians is because Christ has died for us, and that is the time that that moment was now realized.
Right.
That's why it's very crucial and important when you talk about anything faith.
Yeah.
In physics, we call it the focal point.
Yeah.
Where
cut, yeah.
Unafanya mirrors.
Yes.
Mirrors, and kulikuwa na focal point.
In the middle.
So the cross of Calvary is the focal point of not only the Christian history, but the history of the world. So,
As you pick from there, we have different times. So in terms, how are you seeing it as people celebrate Easter over time? How was it to
through
you?
history,
Through just history, basically.
Well, not much has changed for people who understand the essence of Easter. So we still celebrate people since time, like not time immemorial, since the death of Christ, have been observing in one way or the other that death and resurrection. So it hasn't changed much, except that with time kuna vitu zio come up, and this applies to, I think, most areas of theology. With liberalism and all that, people start disregarding Easter, and on one hand, and on the other hand, people hold too much on the celebration and forget the purpose or why we are celebrating Easter. So that has been the sort of divide, but the central theme of Easter has remained constant throughout time.
Okay. So which is that time that you really felt the message of this Easter or the Nini of Christ has been an impact for you in your life?
I would say throughout the time that I've been saved, and you realize, by the grace of God, when you continue growing in grace and you continue, knowing Christ and being made like Him, you realize that all this is possible because of the cross of Christ. You realize that you're even able to have a church, a home church, because of what Christ has done. You are able to have like-minded friends because of what Christ has done. You are able to have a community around you because of what. Basically, my whole life is because of why we are doing Easter. That is Christ's death, resurrection, and crucifixion and resurrection.
Unajuanga Euphrates, ikifikanga holiday, people tend to celebrate, like wanapanga kwenda nini mseme tunaenda coast for the holiday, because now that is the time unajua uko off, unajua opportunity. But this is different. This is not just an holiday. It's an Easter holiday. So when did you felt it was right for you to practice the aspect of just not seeing it as an holiday, but just a moment of, putting it as an aspect of a faith to you?
Okay. So thank you very much, Alan. As you've said, of course, sherehe ni sheria bana. So unajibamba bana, kama niko store mnashuka, because hii ndio time mko na a weekend yenye inaanza Friday inaenda mpaka Monday. Kama
especially yangu end month hivi.
Bana, kama unaingia Masai Mara first time. Yeah. So I think so when I was growing up, that was it. Nilikuwa najibamba. But I realized as I was growing up and maturing, there was a constant guilt that I felt within me, a resident guilt within my heart. Anything I do wrong, I try to correct it by maybe aligning my morals. So hii siku nitafanya fiti. But hata nikifanya that effort, still I could not efficiently achieve it. Bado nilikuwa na feel there is a gap that I'm missing. So as I continue to interact with, of course, going to church, friends, I realized that the reason why I'm not achieving it is because only Jesus was able to attain fully 100% efficiently to purge sin, both the power, the guilt, and the punishment of sin once and for all. So he gave us what he achieved as a gift and grace that we are able to receive now, forgiveness and his righteousness that he achieved through the cross. So that started making now sense to my life, that I now need to live my life in gratitude or in effect of what Jesus achieved for me. Now I'm able to worship him. I'm able to depend fully on him because he has achieved what I cannot achieve. And through that time I started getting peace, and the gap and the resident guilt of sin that I was feeling was no longer there. I felt forgiven, and I felt that my sin, not in part now, but in full, has been purged by the Messiah.
All right. So from both views of Brian and Euphrates here, is it that now, because you've said this is just a moment that happened, right? Mm-hmm. So should we take it just as the only time to take a time to just have a reflection, or is it now after happening, ni kama ile unapata experience in life and you're like, I once bitten twice shy. So is it like now this should be practiced without just focusing on only this time? Ama is it can be a daily routine?
Ama tuko tunangoja Easter.
Yeah. Ama itukwe tu tunangoja Easter.
Yeah, so I think remembering Easter, ideally we can't really say that there is we should be remembering this number of times or this frequency, but I think every time especially as a Christian, you remember what Christ has done for you. It is just a solemn moment. It is very important. But one thing I can say is I think corporately, outside of Easter, there's another way we as Christians, when we gather corporately, we remember of what happened in Easter.
Yes.
And that's during the Lord's Supper.
Yeah.
So we do that in remembrance of what Christ did. And sometimes you'll find that people in some churches, they do it weekly.
Yeah.
Others do it bi-monthly, others do it monthly. So in that corporate sense, as a church, we come together and we just want to have these opportunities where we reflect and look back to what Christ has done. Because as I said earlier, Christianity means nothing without the cross.
True.
So every time we look at the cross, we get our identity. Yeah. We get re-informed because we have a tendency of forgetting what Christ has done for us. So it is important. The frequent or the more regular you remember of the cross, the better. Yeah. So there's no limit. You can remember it every day before you sleep. If that is possible, it will be good for you.
So you're giving the aspect of a cross as a significance, as it has its signs, or it has as its symbols. Like you can use it just as a reflection of it, ama how do you put that? Because you'd see msalaba ziko kwa churches, like how, because it is now, it happened that time.
Behind you is one.
Yes, actually like one.
Okay.
But you see, you'll find it in churches. Yes. You'll find it here. So does
hata
it...
kuna watu wanazivaa kama ni
kama the
urembo maridadi, hata weka hivi. Ula wakati
gari yako haina msala.
Haina msala.
Yeah.
So we take it as we now use that as a symbol of just remembrance, somehow how should we just put the cross? Because it is now like it is found everywhere, literally.
Yeah, sure. So, to one in one sense, just like any other activity, especially tends to be distorted. So the cross can just be used as a means of just showing identity.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just from a religious background, and that is all that you see when you see a cross.
Yeah.
But I think, as you have come to know, even as we've been discussing, we have seen that the cross means not a lot, it means everything to us as Christians, because basically it tells us how we became Christians, how salvation could be possible. So when we look at the cross, we don't just look at it as, this symbol, this, something dangling on your neck, but really want to see what is the meaning, what does it remind us, what does it evoke in our mind concerning what it means. And in this case, it should remind us of Jesus Christ and what he did for us. If it does not achieve that, then I think it has no purpose.
Yeah.
It's just maybe for beauty or anything else.
Yeah, true.
Which shouldn't be the case. Yeah.
Yes, I think
in some sense, I think some people have gone to the extreme where you can't even say it has no meaning. It has crossed a line where it's now
So
idolatrous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where people ascribe that power to the object itself.
Yeah.
Unapata msee anasema siwezi tembea bila cross.
Yeah.
And now their faith is somehow in that little wooden cross, which misses the whole point of Easter. Sorry, Euphrates, go ahead.
Yes, I was saying when something has been practiced over time, sometimes there are dangers, as Pastor Emmanuel said, of either distortion of it, or sometimes you just take it casually, or sometimes you overdo it and becomes an object of idolatry rather than the significance or the symbolic effect that is required. It happened in the early church, even with the Lord's table, that Paul writes to them and tells them the way you are doing the Lord's table is not right. You need to wait for one another, do in unison, reflect on the message of the cross together, or that. The same with the cross. Now that the cross carries such a significance happening in the life of humanity, we should not take the cross that we are celebrating is not the wooden object like this one.
Yeah.
We are celebrating the cross that Jesus Christ hung on it, the blood that was shed by Jesus Christ. The rest are just things that we are remembrance of the grand happening that happened long time ago, and that has already granted us salvation fully and for all. So I don't need to have a cross that I carry here, that in case I'm about to get an accident, I touch it and, oh God, Jesus. Now that would be too extreme, and that would be idolatry. So the cross we are talking about is the cross that Jesus Christ hung more than 2,000 years ago. The cross that the thief on one side of Jesus Christ said, remember me, Lord, when you reach paradise, and he promised salvation. That is the cross we are celebrating. Not the one that wengine wanaweka ya simiti, wengine wanaweka ya gold, wengine wanachanga fundraising, wanatengeneza the best cross ever. Not those ones. We are talking about the cross of Jesus Christ, the old rugged cross.
So sorry, I do have a question. So remember, in the Old Testament we had those sacrifices and rituals that we have discussed the Old Testament in our Bible studies, na tumekubaliana those were foreshadows of the perfect sacrifice, Christ, and those sacrifices used to draw us forward now to Christ. Can we say in a similar manner the cross inatupeleka kisengere nyuma Kiswahili?
Kisengere nyuma.
So does the cross take us back to Calvary, ama they are symbols in a different manner?
I think simply, instead of maybe looking at it that way, we can just consider the cross as a fulfillment.
Of those sacrifices.
All those sacrifices, and then the implications that are coming out of that.
So it's just like that time, Yom Sumari, that that Jesus was alipata. He had to show them that this is me.
I am resurrected.
It's a proof that I have.
Talking of which, ameongelea msumari, nimekumbuka swali. and someone said, see the blood of Christ, we are saved by, someone akauliza, since Christ alikuwa fundi wa mbao, angejigonga na msumari, hiyo damu imwagike, hiyo damu ingetusave.
Maybe before Pasi comes on board, the salvation that Jesus Christ brought was a predestined suffering that was already ordained by God before the foundation of, number one, how we will die, how we will resurrect, everything, every detail was planned. Yeah. So Jesus Christ, for him to achieve the salvation that he gave us, he had to hang on a cross. He had to be mocked. He had to endure everything that he went. So it was not just about him dying. It was dying by the way that he died in every detail. Kwa hivyo hata angekuwa akifanya hivi kwa bahati mbaya aligonge na nyundo damu mwangike, that would not be ama hata hiyo ingekuwa tu, but it was to be hanging at Calvary, that people mock him, anampatia ile kinyonja alipewa chungu. Every detail it had to be that way. Kwa hivyo kama angejigonga na msumari na nyundo akikuwa seremala, ingekuwa achieved because it was already ordained by God. I will do it.
So the aspect where even Jesus vlalishiko alisema, your faith, young woman, your faith has healed you. So this entire thing still brings us to the aspect of faith in it. So we just don't have to look at it, Blako. So now that we've seen it in our own view of, so how do we see the church celebrating this Easter different from the others? How they celebrate it?
So are you asking for the difference?
No, how different do you feel that we celebrate from the others?
From even in our own time, we see the difference even between different, I don't want to say different churches because there's only one church. But in terms of denominations, the way we celebrate seems to vary from one place. Leo nikikuja church nimepata na wasio wamebeba palms. Wanasema ni Palm Sunday. So when you come to an evangelical church like this one, people would ukikuja hapa nayo palm watakuuliza unataka kupanda maua wapi? Like it's different how we do it. You see some members of the Catholic Church go for tuangaje hizo vitu wanaendanga njia msalaba. So that's their way of looking at it. But historically the church has, I don't want to say the essence of it has been degraded over time, but when you read back, you see some sort of seriousness with the church, especially when you look at the Reformation and the church that came out of that, and the seriousness that they took.
Him to bring it that way, so that we would see that it has bring unity. You see, as much as
kuna difference.
As much as kuna difference, but still we practice it.
All of us.
Regardless. But the thing is, it has brought, imelete watu pamoja to celebrate it.
So as a co-jointer to what you said, of course Easter I think is celebrated globally by let me call them Christian countries, although there is nothing like a Christian country. You just but as you said,
hata sisi wenye ni 80% Christian
Kenya. Okay, depends where you come from. So but sometimes when you make it like a ritual or a public holiday, so Easter is not a public holiday, by the way. Easter is a divine celebration that has effect on an individual. So that's what I mean. So when you make it just a casual ritual that the serikali unajua it keeps changing depending, I don't know what. So kama serikali imeamua ni that's where you wait, that's my Good Friday, hiyo mnaanza kupanga venye mtafanya sherehe, then it will not make sense. Sometimes even the church it may do it casually just because wamepatikana ni wakati wa Yesu kucelebrate Yesu alikufa na amefufuka, and they have not taken time to reflect. So both corporately and as a person, as Pastor Emmanuel said, the reflective bit and the meaning of it is the one which has impact. So when you just do it for the sake, then Easter will not make sense, because sorry to say, people have commercialized something like Christmas. Thank God that there is very less commercialization of Easter, apart from discounts here and there that it's not so much. I'm not saying that they now make it, but I think we need to hold to the effect and the impact that the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ brought, and we see it in our lives being reflected and how we live.
Yeah. So all part is important, just as like the birth of Jesus is important as much as also the resurrection of Jesus and the kufufuka.
Resurrection.
Kukufa na kufufuka.
Yes.
They're all important. They have their own significance, and it is best as it was like a fulfillment of the promises that was given. Now, I would want to ask this question to Pastor Emmanuel. You see, there's kind of activities that we tend to do in churches just to bring that. So do you think it leads to the right message? Or in short, what are the right message to give at the Easter?
Okay. Yeah. So primarily, that question actually, if answered one way, it is very simple. Yeah. But if answered another way, it can be a little bit complex. So simply, if those activities are going to be done in a way that are going to bring out the meaning of the cross, then that is okay. The creativity might depend, might vary, as Brian has already said. Different churches, gatherings, they sort of do it differently. They have different ways of expressing out that kind of message. But if at the end of it all, the whole thing is driven towards bringing out the significance of the cross and Jesus Christ and what he did on the cross, then the message that will have been done in a good way. Yeah. But it can be very difficult to ascertain as to what should be done before this and that, as to it collectively being the right way of doing it. I think simplistically you can just say, as long as not just maybe one part. You don't just want to have something that is very detached from Easter. Then at the very end, someone just comes and say this is the cross, and there's no really meaning. That can not be very productive. But if whatever activity is being done is aimed at, is leading towards bringing out the meaning of the cross, then that is okay, though it may have different expressions.
All right. Yeah. So, Brayo, you say there are activities that it is done here for the youths. Yeah. So, what are those kind of activities that are offered here in AIC Milimani?
Yeah. So, we do have a few activities just during the Easter period, and at the base of it all, as Pastor Manu has said, it's all pointing us to the message of the cross. The power, the redemptive power of the cross, and if at the end of the day, if all these activities do not realign our hearts towards that message, then we will really be laboring in vain. So one of the activities, at least two that we have seen so far, I think two, is we had the Easter cantata, where we sang a lot of hymns led by the Hill Voices. Just hymns that speak of Easter and the work of Christ at the cross. And then we had the worship evening, where we just met together as a congregation and sang to the Lord and praised him for what he has done as a way of celebrating Easter. But also from the youth ministry, we have an Easter camp coming up. So throughout Easter, we meet at a tented camp This time we'll be meeting up at Kajiado at Sitam Kadolta, where throughout the weekend we will just be doing all of that, singing, having fellowship with one another, kutulia to relax, and listening to the word being preached about Easter and about the work of the cross. So yeah, I'm personally looking forward to a great Easter. We should call it getaway. We get away from what we've been doing at home for the first part of the year, and we go just to relax and thank God and remind ourselves what Easter is really about.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Kifres ushaenda one of the camps.
Easter camps.
Yeah.
One to say.
Yeah. So maybe what's your experience you had over there, and did you come out different? Like what
I think because I've gone to several of the Easter camps, the experiences are different. But I think one that I remember very vividly, we were, I think, somewhere in Kikuyu, and we took time just to bond and to be vulnerable to one another, just to share what has been our weakest points. That time we had a session just to have a shoulder to lean on, and I think from there we came back we are very gelled fellowship and community of believers, and we experienced a lot of grace in the rest of the year. It was time and life changing. But over time, of course, you keep making the experience way. Where can we improve? How can we? So I can say that the Easter camp, I recommend it highly, because apart from just going to understand what is all about Easter and the Word of God, you have moments just to be vulnerable to one another, make friends. I've had people have testimony that they met their spouses even in the Easter camp, because I don't have their consent to say their names. It's a great testimony, man. So it's different experiences, but all of them moments of celebration. Pray together, make friends, understand the Word of God more. Yes, and you do what the early church could do, because the early church was all about fellowship and being vulnerable to one another.
Yeah, so it's more of being in the right place.
Yes.
Yeah, at the right time.
Your time, because we are just taking that long weekend. Wengine wakienda sherehe wakibeba mzinga ya Jack Daniels, beba Biblia. Wakishuka mali wanashuka waende wafanye vitu zao kwa hiyo time tunaenda, we build what we value. So kila mtu take time to invest what they value, because as we value the Bible and the impact the Word of God has in our lives, we just take time and go and reflect on that, and we build each other as young people and address the challenges that the young people are facing, not only in the contemporary world, but also in the experiences of life. That kuna watu wamepitia breakups, they need just someone to share with. Kuna watu wamekataliwa, the last time aliambiwa yes alikuwa high school, yes ako na 10 years experience job. Yes, such. So it's a life changing time.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Kwa mambo na outreach sasa tuko kwako. Najaribu kuangalia what are the best ways, ama what opportunities, because we have this season, the Easter season. So what opportunity can we use, ama how can we use it to just make sure that the message is read out to everyone?
Yeah, sure. And just before I answer your question, I think that question reminds me of something important. Sometimes because of this issue of, like my colleagues were saying, the issue of overdoing Easter or not
less doing it.
So there are even Christians who will be convinced that no, for me, if it's not in the Bible, I cannot celebrate it. I don't see a date given in the Bible for Christmas. I don't see a date given for Easter in the Bible. So I am not obliged to participate in these things. They are not in the Bible. They're not biblical. But I think that is missing the point. I think the way we should be looking at this is that these events is some sort of God-given opportunity. Because you just tell me, if you approach someone during the period of Easter, they're already predisposed in their mind to think something of Christianity.
Yeah.
So even if someone is not a Christian, as Yufra was saying, maybe they are, they have gone for their Jack Daniels and whatever, and you start a conversation around Christianity, already the times itself, gives you an upper hand, because it's the Easter period. It's easy to start a conversation. And I think this is how we should be looking at these events. We don't just have to say that this is not in the Bible, I cannot celebrate it. It doesn't have any meaning. But we should be looking at it as God-given opportunities, whereby there's already an avenue for us to, utilize that opportunity. And then if we decide we are doing outreach, say evangelism, people already some sort of predisposed to listen to us, or because of the context and the times, it is easy to start a conversation that will sort of enable you to bring about the gospel. So I think we should be able to use this opportunity in any way that is going to make us, be out there, whether you're using the social media avenues, or whether we are going for, we organize an outreach program, a physical one, whatever approach we might want to utilize. As much as possible, we just make sure that we use these opportunities. We don't let them go, because it is easy to get people, and even it's easy to start conversations, because already that environment is enabling.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good approach. Sometimes people tend to, use the aspect of sharing, and tend to also visit the elderly and stuff. Those are some of the things that we do it, especially Decembers and everything. So I was thinking, in Easters we don't listen much of it, and as they are Christian, how do you look at it in your aspect? Should we as Christian do that? Ama, what do you personally think?
Of good works.
Yeah, of the good works.
Yes, reaching out to the elderly, visiting the children at children's homes, prisons, visiting those who are incarcerated, and among many other things. I think it's good within the Christian. For Christians, it's good to do that, reaching out especially to those who socially down. Yeah, but I think it brings up an issue of the old question of works or versus faith, where people would do that and in their own minds think that they are getting favor in the sight of God because they have done so and so. Euphrates anasema last week nilienda committee visit wase huko nikashare gospel, so in the eyes of God he must really love me because I've done such and such a thing. While good works are good, we must understand it. We must understand these works in their right context, that they are the fruit of what Christ has done at Calvary, at the cross. They come from being saved, so that you don't lie to yourself and think that by doing these good works you stand or you gain a righteous standing before God, because that would be an exercise in futility. How you understand good works is, we have a proper understanding of Easter. Tujue Easter ni about what Christ has done for us, and we know for sure that we have been saved by faith, so that we have been saved by faith, but to do these good works, so that the name of Christ may be exalted by all men.
Yeah. So what do you see on your own view of aspect?
Yeah, I think hospitality and us doing acts of service should be a lifestyle. It's not a calendar event that because it's Christmas. Oh, guys, now it's time that we need to go and see the sick. This is the time that we go to prison.
Cameras.
Yes, mnanunua cameras, mnaenda live,
Follow us.
Yes.
Live.
No, it should be a lifestyle, and it should be a lifestyle that has come out as an effect that you yourself, you are appreciating the change and the grace God has extended to you, that you are extending that grace and love to others naturally by lifestyle, not because it's Easter. So if I don't do it in February, if I don't do it in June, there is no any, and I'm doing it because it's a dated thing, then it will not, that is not Christianity. Christianity is a lifestyle out of reference for God, not for dates and calendars.
All right. So, Pastor Pastor Manuel, Rotich. So, as I just want you to put just a clarification on your own words.
Okay.
Is it a time of self,
Reflection.
yeah, reflection, or these are the aspect of acting with kindness?
Yeah, I think just as Euphrates has said, we cannot really constrain ourselves to a specific thing, because Christianity really has less to do with programs and activities, and has more to do with what God is doing in our heart and the overflow of that as to what we are moved to do as a result. So if it is this Easter and I have an opportunity, say I am working, I don't get time off, but this time I have time off and it affords me an opportunity to do a lot of activities as it relates to that, then that is fine. But I should not be constrained and thinking that it is just a calendar program, that this is the time to do this. And when there's need any other time outside of Easter, I cannot do anything, then that is wrong. Yeah, so because it should be me observing the need, and out of the abundance of what God has done in my heart, then I should be able to be sensitive and responsive to that anytime. Yes.
So it should be a routine, not just a moment of time to create it for a specific time.
Yeah, it should not be for
Right.
a specific time. It's just that in this sense, usually you get that it usually affords you more opportunities can be gotten during that period. Yeah, but it's not really
It's
based
not a
on that
restricted.
only.
It's not like
Right.
the way people have a restricted time for taking IDs. When you clock 18, go for an ID. Is there a restricted time for marriage? I don't know. You can tell us.
You tell us.
You tell us.
I will mislead you. So it's not like it's a restricted time. When it's Easter, that's when you need to visit prisons. When it's Easter, that's when you become friendly. You have always been arrogant. Guys, it's Palm Sunday. I'm now humble.
You're humble for 3 hours.
For 3 hours.
I will be humble because I'm carrying a palm tree. And I want to be holy because it's a holy day.
Because I'm holding a holy
A
tree.
holy thing. I have
It's
the cross.
ridiculous, yeah.
Guys, I need to behave because I'm holding this cross. No.
So actually, as we come to an end, umenikumbushanga unaonanga people who act or like Jesus, and then they carry the cross. Vitu kama hizo kwanga.
They reenact the way of the cross. Unakumbuka when Christ was arrested at Gethsemane?
Yeah, is it in the Garden of Gethsemane?
Yes, and then he was taken for trial, and then from trial he walked all the way to the hill of Calvary. So they try to reenact that.
All right.
And sometimes just look at it and guys, do you really understand what Easter is about?
Yeah.
Because to some of them, that's all that they know about Easter. Yeah.
All right. As we come to an end, I hope you've been able to take a moment of seeing and trying to understand the aspect of Easter holiday in the right way. So as we come to an end, I would like maybe just everyone to have their own closing remark as we end today's episode.
Yeah, for me, it's been a wonderful discussion. Much more can be said about Easter, but just for the sake of this conversation, maybe just to encourage all those who are watching or listening in whatever platform you use to listen to your podcasts, may you come to know Christ personally, so that Easter kwako isikuwe tu ni sherehe watu wanajibamba and at the end of the day it comes to nothing for you. Know Christ, be known to him, and that his name will be glorified in your life.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you. I think just to as we close, number one is to wish all of you happy Easter season, and yourself, for you to be time with family, time with church. Whatever you're doing, just ensure that you enjoy. But remember, this is the time that humanity got relieved out of the eternal burden of sin that only the cross that can remove. Maybe you are there, you are struggling with a lot in your life and you're wondering, what do I next? I invite you to the grace-giving cross that is able to fully reconcile you back, but not only to yourself, but also to God. Karibu dugu na dada. Asante.
Yeah, thank you. So let's see just your final take.
Yeah, so I'll just single out one thing as we close, and that is to what Easter really means, or rather how Easter shaped my understanding of suffering, or rather what Easter signifies and as it relates to suffering. And I think when you look at Easter, we see one thing. We see the highest form of suffering ever inflicted, and this kind of suffering was inflicted to Jesus, that Jesus was humiliated, and this was, the climax of everything, because he was humiliated from the time he was conceived and all through, and this was the, that point. But look at what that suffering accomplished. It brought about salvation. And that is the exact same message that Jesus extended to his disciples, that if you're going to be his disciple, you're going to carry the cross. But there's one assurance that also we get from the scriptures, that this momentary affliction that you may be going through, any kind of suffering you as a Christian may go through, we are told that it works to bring about a weight of glory. So as we think of suffering in terms of the cross, I think it shapes my perspective, and I believe that it should shape the perspective of each and every one of us as we consider the cross as it relates to the issue of suffering.
All right. Thank you for your closing remarks. Even as we end the episode, we're glad that you'll be with us for the next episode. We look forward, and thank you for being part of us.
Peace.